So have you ever visited a Japanese garden or maybe seen a video or a picture of one and said, gee, I'd like to have that in my own yard. I've got a space, a courtyard, a backyard, a side yard. Man, where do I start? Where do I get materials? Do I have to pay people tens of thousands of dollars to construct something like that in my yard? And the idea of it seems monumental, so you just kind of forget about it. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you, give you some tips and pointers on how you can have your own Japanese garden in your own yard. This is a do-it-yourself DIY video, and stay tuned. Well, hello again, everyone. Watching the Good News Tree Service YouTube channel. Nathan here for another video on my Japanese garden. It's July in the summer, and I thought I'd make a video on the concept of DIY, do-it-yourself. Yes, this has been a DIY garden. I've done it all myself. I haven't hired people. I haven't spent a lot of money other than buying a few plants. But a lot of the things I've bought or brought in have been, I've collected here and there. And one doesn't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars hiring a high-end landscape architect, Japanese designer. I mean, it'd be great if you had the money, but most of us don't. So we can learn to do some of these things ourselves. So I want to show you how I have been working on my garden for years, and how you can create your own garden, according to your own style and what you like. I would recommend that, depending on what your style is, go online, look at Japanese gardens, find something that the style that you like. There's lots of pictures and videos online that show you all kinds of Japanese gardens, and then find one that you like or several aspects that you like, and then begin to incorporate them little by little into your own garden. And it can be a process over time. You can do it all at once, go spend a lot of money and go get the supplies that you need at a local nursery or a landscape supply place, rocks and plants and gravel and things like that, whatever you want, and water features. Or you can little by little just begin to develop an area, maybe one little area of your yard, and then expand it out, or just, keep it as large or as small as you want. And that's what I've been doing with my Japanese garden for many, many years. It's been evolving. I do things with the materials that I have on hand or that I have readily available. And then I go from there. And then if there's something I don't like, or something doesn't perform well for me, or I find something I like better, I find an idea somewhere else, then I rip it out and start all over again, or make adjustments or whatever. So that's how my garden has evolved, and I want to share some of the things that I have done over the years. I've been working on my garden for 30 years. It hasn't always been a Japanese garden. It's always been a nice yard, a nice garden, but it's only been the last few years that I've transformed it into a more Japanese style situation. So some of the plants are still rather immature. It'll be much nicer when they get larger. Some of the Japanese maples and things like that. So anyway, let's take a look, and I'll give you some thoughts and ideas, and maybe this will inspire you to do your own Japanese, your DIY, do-it-yourself Japanese garden. So as I walk into the front gate of my yard from the street, you have cobblestones here that I picked up. They used to be cobblestones that were on the streets of downtown Portland, a city north of me, not too far. And I picked these up and made these part of the walkway. Again, it looks aged and old. These actually came from sailing ships in the late 1800s and the early 1900s that then were used to cobblestone the streets of Portland. And then when they graded some of the streets and modernized them, these were ripped out, and I managed to snag a few. Same thing with these sandstone. These were actually, it's like curbing, probably from the 1800s. And we actually, and these came from Portland as well. I picked them up. They were cast-offs. And then you actually have some here horse rings that were, you still see them on some of the old curbed city streets in downtown Portland from the early 1900s, where they would have horse rings, where before the advent of the automobile or the proliferation of the automobile, people could tie their horses up to these horse rings that were embedded in the curb. I got another one over here. And then they would tie their horses up and go in and shop at stores or whatever they did. And then all these rocks, I haven't paid for anything. I've picked them up here and there when I've been out in the mountains or places where there's rocks. I throw one in the back of the truck, and then I bring them home. I get them from clients that don't want them anymore. Same thing with a lot of these stepping stones. Some of these I've bought, but like these big flagstones, I bought these. But I've bought a lot of things because I'm an arborist. I work in a lot of people's yards, and they're constantly re-landscaping. And so I get a lot of cast-offs. This gate, I did buy this. I bought this from a client of mine who has a garden store, and she sells these kinds of things for your yard. And so I horse traded some tree work for her for this garden gate. And so almost everything here I have planted. This rhododendron that's about 15 feet tall, that was here when we bought the house 30 some years ago. But everything else I have planted. All of these Japanese, this blood-good Japanese maple and these vine maples here, I transplanted them from a client's house that didn't want them, brought them in. I did purchase the Alaska cedars from a nursery. Now they're getting quite large. It's nice. Most of these ferns I have dug out in the woods or brought them in from people that didn't want them. These rhododendrons and some of these plants, again, they were ones I transplanted and dug. Most of these rocks I have found in the mountains and I brought in. Again, didn't cost a lot of money, just the labor. All these rocks I brought in from clients that didn't want them anymore. They had them in their courtyards or their gardens, and I got them. You know, I bought some of these plants, these trees, and on this fence I made this years ago. This was from a redwood tree that I cut down. This is all redwood, and I made a screen to hide my garbage cans. And of course, I bought the lanterns and some of these shrubs here. And some of these rocks, again, I've just picked them up here and there. I don't think I've paid for any of them. The bamboo, I made this screen recently. I have a client that has a whole grove of bamboo, and I've worked out a deal with them where whenever they're pruning out their bamboo, I take their excess bamboo, and then I chip up the branches, pardon me, and the bamboo that they don't want. And then I bring it in and use it in my garden. So I get that for free. Yeah, pretty cool, really. And a lot of these pots that I've gotten, people don't want the pots, and I get them for free. A few pots I have bought, but now this gate, I bought the wood and built the gate. But like this is from a Hollywood juniper that we took down, and it's kind of the top of this stylized Torii gate, and I laid this over the top up here, and you can see, you know, it's kind of interesting. And so now we're going into the backyard, and I made my own gate. Here's an old rake. The sun's not helping me. Here's an old rake right here that I put in an old trowel. I think this is my great-grandfather's. I ended up inheriting it. I turned it into a handle for this gate. Kind of cool. Here's an old garbage can lid. This garbage can lid was my wife's grandparents, and she somehow inherited it, and we ended up with it. And what's cool about this is a U.S. government. I don't know where they got it, but it says U.S. here. 1941. So this garbage can lid is about 83 years old, and I use it to as an old stump I cut off, and it was hollow, It was a job we did, and it was hollow on the inside, so I used it to store stuff in there. Anyway, a lot of all these plants, these little Nandinas, I bought, or I didn't buy. I actually got for free. I bought. This is a little. Often Japanese gardens have a place where you can do a ceremonial washing, and I've got one here. I'm going to make a little ladle. Anyway, it's kind of at the entrance. It's symbolic of coming into a garden and kind of cleansing yourself as you step into this kind of sacred space. I have bought a lot of these plants, and now I'm pruning them. Some of these contorted conifers, and I bought some of these really nice rocks, like this one here. This is a kind of a resting place where you can stop. It invites the person to look out over the garden. And here's some more of the bamboo that I picked up. These rocks, these are from Mexico. These are Mexican black, some sort of a black rock, a basaltic type rock. And of course I bought the pea gravel. But some of these ferns I bought, some of these plants I've just picked up here and there. All these rocks I got for free from people that didn't want them. This rhododendron here belonged to my grandmother. I've got this one and another one that was at my grandmother's house. I transplanted it. She's been dead for 40 years, but I've got some family memories there, and so I've nurtured that. And here's a bell that I got from a client who had it for sale in her little store, and I bought that. Did some horse trading for some tree work, and then I replaced the bamboo and put my own bamboo in there. The other one was pretty rotten, and this was kind of cool. So I got the bell and the stand from her, a local person. And then when I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico last year, I was in an antique or an art store, and they had this. It was an art gallery, and they had this wrought iron hook with this bell striker. And I said, yes, that's what I need for my bell. There it is. And so I bought that and put that there. And so here's something we feed the birds. And this is something I made out of a piece of wood, a tree we cut down. I drilled holes in there, and we stick suet in there. It's empty right now because anytime I put suet in there, it's gone within a day. They love that stuff. And of course I've got all kinds of other shrubs. I have gotten in here and shaped and reshaped my lawn. My lawn used to extend clear out to the arborvitae hedge and out to the rock wall, and I have little by little sculpted it and shaped it and reshaped it so that I have more of a flowing form. And, again, I've just played with this until I get things the way I want them. And sometimes some of the plants I put in do well, sometimes they don't. And so I have to kind of transplant things and redo things. I recently put in these little boxwoods, variegated and normal, dwarf boxwoods, and to hide underneath my deck so you're not looking underneath there and seeing stuff under there. And, again, do it yourself. I do all this myself. Here's a wood box I made. We have a wood burning stove, and I made this wood box. I keep stuff in it. In the summertime, in the wintertime, it's wood. But these are some old deck boards. I replaced the boards on this deck last year, and so I took the old deck boards, repurposed them, and turned them into this wood box. Kind of give it an old, antique, ancient look, which is really a Japanese thing to do, to make things look aged, and try to give the garden a certain patina of age and stability and wisdom. Of course, this is an old pump I pulled out. I used to actually pump water out of that pump. It was in a former residence, and there was an old cistern back there with that old pump, and they redeveloped the property and turned it into a shopping center, and I took the pump and turned it into a fountain, and there you have that. And so, all these rocks, get out of the picture here, all these rocks all came from clients of mine. I bought a few of them, but most of them, they were They were given to me in the process of my work as a tree service. And all these rocks I've collected out of the, in surrounding areas. It's all local basalt rock. I especially tried to pick rocks that had mosses and lichens on them, which are really cool. Here's more of the bamboo as a barrier, as a kind of a retaining wall. So yeah, I have. Here's another rhododendron. This was my grandmother's as well. And here's a bench that I made out of a tree that I took down. This is a cedar tree, and I cut it. That was a part of a trunk, and I cut it around, and then I cut it in half and made a slab, and now I've got a bench to sit on here when I want to sit and rest in my garden. And I did that in a couple other places too. So like, for example, here's my hot tub. These are trees I cut, and I made rounds and made a rustic looking steps, which I have old-fashioned watering cans sitting on them. And then recently we took down a very, very large incense cedar in somebody's backyard, and I cut steps, again, rustic, going up to our deck. I like the rustic look. The Japanese really are big on rustic type things, natural looking features. Here's a deck, or a stoop rather, to my office. And again, it was some slabs of wood that I cut with a landing, and I made a little stoop for my office door. And of course, I've got rocks here that are a landing and stepping stones that fit in nicely with the steps and or the stoop. And then of course they lead, you see here, up to these various steps and stairs that I have created. And again, all very natural and rustic looking. And some of these plants I have bought, a lot of these Nandinas, I've bought a few, but most of them I've taken out of people's yards that didn't want them. And yeah, so this has been a do-it-yourself thing. And here is a, and of course I bought the bird feeder, but this just lace leaf Japanese maple. Somebody called me up and they go like, I got this Japanese maple, I don't want it anymore. Can you take it? And I said, yeah, you bet. So I put that back here, and now they pruned it in a real funky kind of a way. So I'm letting it grow out naturally and trying to give it a little bit more natural looking shape. Here's driftwood that I picked up from the beach along the Oregon coast, because I want to give it a kind of this dry stream bed, a kind of an ocean look. And I've got some actual real Japanese floats down there. Let's get out of the light there. That washed up on the Oregon coast many years ago, and I picked those up. And anyway, you get the idea. I mean, you can do this yourself. And like I said at the beginning of this video, just go online, look at some examples of Japanese gardens, find out videos or photographs, and find out what you like. So here's my water feature, and I collected almost all of these rocks, except the ones down there. These are from Mexico. They're a black, black basalt type rock. But all these rocks I collected, picked them up out of rivers and along highways and roads, and that we're in public areas where it's all right. And I planted ferns and small things along here. So I have this beautiful little waterfall. If I pull this grass out of here, you can see what it looks like down here. And the reason I have this grass here is to keep the water from splashing out all over the place. But anyway, and then so I just constructed this out of nothing. I got a little basin down there and a pump with a hose, and it recirculates and is plugged into an electrical source, so it keeps recirculating. And let me show you this. So these wine bottles. I was at somebody's house many years ago, and they had used these wine bottles as an edge, as a border for their one of their flower beds. I thought that's a cool idea. And these are all dark green bottles, and so I just made a barrier, a border, a little retaining wall out of wine bottles. It doesn't cost anything. It just start saving them or collect them or whatever. I hope this gives you some ideas of how you can create your own Japanese garden and may have a lot of fun at it. and get a lot of enjoyment. Like I love my Japanese garden. It's not very large, it's just around my house, but I love it. My wife loves it. The dogs love it. Sometimes they pee in the grass. I got a brown spot out there, and we try to keep them going elsewhere. But you know, the dogs love to roll in the grass, and my wife trains service dogs, so we get lots of dogs that come through our place. And so anyway, we try to keep them out of the flower beds. But you know, the dogs love it. But really, this garden brings me a lot of joy. I'm out here all the time. I'm sitting. I'm a Christian, so I come out here and read my Bible and pray almost every day, walking around. And yeah, we've got some, let me show you this. So we've been in this yard for about over 30 years in this house. And this used to be a very, very private yard. I had trees next door that overshadowed, kind of like a, you can hear the airplane flying overhead. We have an airport nearby. We have a freeway nearby. There went the shadow. We have a freeway nearby. It's just kind of a loud area. And then we had privacy here until they redeveloped the property next door and built this 3-story sixplex looking right down on my backyard. I used to have total privacy back here. Nobody could see in here. And then they built that. And yeah, it sucks big time. They destroyed a big tree that I had that would have blocked all of that. They destroyed that, cut through the roots. I had to take it down. And we got a lawsuit going over that. That's a whole nother issue. Yeah, it sucks. But despite the fact that these ungodly, ugly apartments are next door to my 100 and some odd year old house in this older neighborhood, but I still, despite all of that yucky, sucky stuff, I still have a peace and a joy in my garden. I just don't look up. I keep my eyes down and enjoy the space that I have created. And you can do the same thing. Create your own little idyllic space in your own backyard. Even if you have just a little courtyard, just maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, you can still create a Japanese garden. Get a few rocks, maybe a little pine tree, maybe you know, some ferns and maybe a little water feature to give you that background ambience of feeling like you're out in nature. It really does bring peace and beauty to the soul and to the spirit, and especially when you come home fighting traffic or out and about in this crazy world. Come home to your own little beautiful space that you can wrap your heart and your arms around and find this sigh of relief, place of peace and joy. And anyway, yeah, you can do it yourself. So I can hear some of you saying right now, yes, I could maybe put together my own Japanese style garden in my own yard, but Nathan, how am I going to prune everything in a way that looks like Japanese style? Well, that's a good question. But this is why I have made a lot of videos on this YouTube channel on how to prune in a Japanese Tsukashi style. And so check out the videos. I have a lot of demonstration videos, but I also have a lot of a number of tutorial videos that actually hands-on show you how to do it, the tools to use, and the principles behind the pruning of you know, aesthetic, what we call aesthetic pruning in the Tsukashi Niwaki style. So like I said, or I don't know if it was this video or a previous video, Tsukashi is pruning things in a bonsai style, but on a larger scale, using those principles to open the trees up or the shrubs in a natural looking way, so that they look natural, natural form and shape, and you can look through and see the structure of the trees. Niwaki is a general term for Japanese style pruning, but specifically it's cloud pruning, which is different than topiary or the pom-pom look, which often people think is Japanese style, but really isn't. It's a caricaturized or stylized version of Japanese style pruning, but cloud pruning is actually where trees, especially pine trees and other types of trees, are pruned in a a layered look and sheared. And they call it cloud pruning or niwaki. Literally, the word niwaki means garden tree. Niwa is garden, and tree is key, as I have learned from some of my Japanese clients who speak Japanese, were born in Japan, so they've told me what these words mean. And so anyway, but niwaki is the style where trees are pruned in layers and sheared to look like clouds floating in the sky. That's really what that's all about. And you don't see, personally, that's not a style that really pleases me that much. It's not what I see growing naturally in the forests or the woods or along the mountains or the coastal areas in my area. Things grow in a more Sukashi style. So in here you have an instance of art replicating nature. So anyway, so you watch some of my videos, and there's other videos out there by other aesthetic pruning craftsmen who can also give you hints on how to prune. And so don't let that intimidate you from starting your own, that is the pruning element, from starting your own Japanese garden in your own backyard. You can really do this if you roll up your sleeves, learn and study, and look at good examples and watch some videos and tutorials, and give it a try. Most plants, not everything, but most plants will come back. Like a bad haircut, they'll come back. The Japanese maples and a lot of the rhododendrons, and a lot of other things. Now, when it comes to pruning the conifers, the pines and the firs, that's a little trickier. You don't want to over prune those. You can do irreparable damage. But again, I have videos on that as well. So check it out and give it a try. And yeah, you can do it yourself. And I encourage you to do that. And let me know in the comments what you think and what you have done, and share your thoughts and ideas with other people. And again, if you like this channel, please subscribe and like and all that good stuff that everybody's always telling you to do. You know what to do. And stay tuned for more. I hope you enjoyed this. Take care and God bless.